So let's talk about what you are going to say when you call and who you're going to be calling. The person you're going to want to call is the person you think you would be reporting to. So if you're in accounting, you'd be calling the accounting manager, or if you're in IT, you'd call the IT director. Now, unless you're going for an HR job, a job in human resources, I wouldn't recommend calling HR as your first call. So how do you get the hiring manager's name? Well, look them up in LinkedIn. Just do an advanced people search in LinkedIn for people who currently work at the company you're trying to get into. Look through the list of results for the right titles, and then you should be able to get a name or two. And then you can look up the main number of the company on their website and then call them and ask for that person, right? And if you get asked, what's this in regards to? Personally, I'm not a believer in ruse calling, where you make up some fake reason why you're calling. Personally, I think honesty is always the best policy. So just tell them, Dan and I are part of the same network, and I just had a quick question for him about a job opening. Now, if they put you into voicemail, no big deal. Leave a message. If he picks up, or if you're leaving a message, here's your script. Hi, my name's Paul Cameron. I was hoping you could point me in the right direction. I understand you're looking for a senior network administrator, and that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years, but I just wasn't sure who I should talk to about that position. Do you know who I should be talking to about that? You're not asking for an informational interview about it. You're not asking for an actual interview about this position. You're not calling to tell them how great you are. You're simply asking for directions. The reason for that is because it's human nature to want to help people. It's going to be obvious that you're not trying to sell them anything. You're not going to be pushy about anything. You just need some help. Now, if you picked correctly, and this truly is the person that this job opening would be reporting to, the hiring manager might say right there on the phone, actually, yeah, that position reports to me, so I'd be the right guy. Great. Now you're in an interview.
So what if you're asked about a skill that you don't have, right? With the list of required skills getting longer and longer these days, employers are bound to ask you about something that you've never heard of. But that doesn't mean you can't do the job. And today, I'm going to show you how you can show them that you're still the person they need to hire. If they ask you, how do you set up a page parameter in XYZ technology, and you've never heard of XYZ technology, the way that most people respond in those situations is by giving them some version of, I'm not familiar with that particular technology, but I'm a very quick learner, or I would love to learn it, right? And please let me qualify my statement when I say most people. As a headhunter, I have been prepping multiple people every week for interviews since 1998. So I have literally asked thousands of people what they would say in those situations. And I can tell you from my experience that a vast majority, probably more than 85% in my estimation, would give me some kind of a but I can learn type of an answer. Which is fine because that's what most people are saying, but my goal here is to make you a better interviewer than most people. So there's ways that you can answer this question and other questions like this, like what's your greatest weakness, or where do you see yourself 5 years from now type questions that will set you apart from the other candidates. But back to this question. So the problem with leaving your answer at, but I'm a quick learner, is that you're leaving it up to the interviewer to have to take your word for it. Maybe you are a quick learner, but then again, you know what? Maybe you're not. And considering this is an interview, you're probably feeding me full of what I want to hear right now. So nothing's really gained by that. So instead, give them a step or two of how you would learn that skill. So now it's, I'm not familiar with that particular skill, but here's what I would do if I was faced with that on the job. And now, if you have any kind of a competitive advantage, you've created an opportunity for yourself to play that card, right? What I mean is, if you're a member of a professional association, or you still have the manuals from that certification that you got, or you have a subscription to some learning website for your industry, now you can say, the first place I would go is to the xyz.com website because I have a current subscription. Plus I'm a member of the XYZ association, and those guys can usually give me quick answers to questions like this. Those are things that your competition can't say, or if they can, they probably won't say it. So this sets you apart from the other people, right? And while you're just saying that you have access to those things, what the hiring manager hears is that if he hires you, he will have access to those things through you. And to him, that is a distinct advantage to hiring you instead of anyone else. The only word of caution here is that, if you don't have an association to go to or the manuals from a certification and your method of learning is that you would just Google it, that's fine. But I would recommend that you don't use the word Google, right? Say you run a search on the internet looking for, whatever, white pages or tutorials or whatever you would actually look for to learn that thing, right? And I know running a search on the internet and Googling it mean the same thing, but, a high school kid would say they'd Google it. Right? And your goal here is to create the perception of senior professional. Right? The most important part here of this whole answer and concept is that you are showing them how you learn quickly instead of just telling them. Right? And there's a huge difference between telling and showing. Plus, if the hiring manager forgets to ask you something, he hangs up the phone, he's like, I forgot to ask if she's ever used, whatever. Well, now it doesn't matter because even if you don't have it, they know how you would learn it, right? So you're answering questions that they're not even asking. Give this a try. It will help you. I approach everything from a salesperson's perspective. Right? Salespeople have developed advanced tactics that are very specifically focused on creating a likable impression. It's as if they've broken it down into a science and identified some universally likable human characteristics, knowing that if they can display those at strategic times throughout their sales call, their percentage chance of being perceived as more likable drastically increases. And I'll show you what I mean as it relates to interviewing. And it's a lot of little things that can make a huge difference. Like, for example, I'm sure you've heard a million times already, at least, that you never want to speak negatively about prior employers. Right? Of course, it's just basic psychology. When you speak negatively of other people, that's going to reflect negatively on you. But what a lot of people don't take advantage of, especially in an interview setting, is that the exact opposite is also true. When you go out of your way to speak positively about other people, that's going to reflect positively on you. It's going to speak to your character as a human being and say, hey, I'm a good person. Right? Does that make sense? So here's the thing. When they ask you why you left your last position or why you're looking to leave your current position, I want you to write down what you would say and then seriously look at that to see if you're describing your company in a positive or a negative way. A huge majority of people are still talking about the negative reasons why they left or why they're looking to leave. Right? They say, I left because they weren't doing well financially, or it was very unstable there, or there was no room for me to grow. I've reached the top level of my position there and they didn't have any room for me to go up, or the manager was swearing at me all day long, or they didn't have this or that, right? Those are not positive descriptions. And if that's you, you just want to switch from talking about what you're running from to what you're running to, right? Why are you leaving? Well, when I heard about this role and I knew the strong management team you had in place and the financial stability of the company, I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to grow my career long term, right? Positively running to instead of running from. Well, let's say you're just neutral. Right? You left because of a layoff, and that's not negative. It is what it is. It's honest. And in my opinion, the first rule of interviewing is to be honest. But instead of saying that you were just caught in a layoff, what if you started that exact same sentence out with, it was a great company and I love the people that I was working with. Just, unfortunately I got caught in a layoff with about 40 other people. Now you're still saying that you were caught in a layoff, but you're also saying that you're a good person. Right? You're giving the manager just one more little reason to like you. Right? You're affecting that little conversation he has with himself or herself after the interview when they say, boy, I don't know what it was about that person. I just liked him. And it's because you very intentionally, strategically dropped several positive character references about yourself throughout the interview. Remember, what you say about other people says more about you than it says about those other people, good or bad. So if you consciously choose to be complimentary about all your former employers or your current employer, you're going to directly influence the perception they have of you as a person. Give this a try. This really works. And when you're negotiating, ultimately, the goal is for both sides to walk away happy, right? I mean, if the new employee feels like they got a lowball offer and we're pressured to take it, the first thing that goes wrong, they're out the door. And in the same way, if the company feels like they were forced to overpay, the new employee better do everything exactly right from the first day, because they're going to be looking at this new person saying, if we're going to pay this person that much, they better be fantastic, right? So if we know that the goal is a positive outcome for both sides, why do so many people negotiate so negatively? I mean, it's like they're negotiating for a car, pointing out all the dings in the fender and the scratch down the side of the vehicle so that they can keep as much money in their pocket as they can. But I'll tell you, here's the difference. When you talk about all the flaws in a car, the car doesn't get offended, right? It's like, hey, I like that ding in my fender. I think it adds character. You know what? I don't want to go to this person. Sell me to somebody else. No, the car doesn't do that. It doesn't have that choice. But when you're negotiating salary, the other person you're negotiating with does feel that way and does have a choice, right? If the employer starts disregarding the candidate's skills and pointing out what they're missing in hopes to make a lower offer, well, that other company down the road just might like their fender just the way that it is, right? And it's the candidate's choice who buys them. And likewise, if the candidate starts pointing out how much the company stock has dropped over the last year and how they're using the wrong systems and how that one job is really like two jobs all rolled into one and that needs to be compensated for, the company's not going to give the job to somebody who already doesn't seem like they like it there, right? Why would they? So the first step for both sides is to get the other side interested and excited about you. And the best way to do that is to show very specific, unfiltered interest in them. It's always easier to like someone and get excited about someone who you know is already excited about you.